Earth, the place we call home and the only planet known to support any form of life. On our planet, you find varying types of life. Those that inhabit the skies, those that inhabit the land, and those that inhabit the sea. To this day, we know the least about those creatures that inhabit the sea, for the sea makes up for 72% of the Earth's surface, but only 5% of it has been explored. Is it possible that we have missed an entire intelligent civilization of creatures because they have been hiding in the 95% of the sea that has yet to be explored? Throughout all of history, there have been myths and legends about certain creatures sharing our oceans with us, but none are as prevalent as those about the half-fish, half-human creatures that we come to know as mermaids. Now, the depiction of mermaids has changed countless times throughout all of time, starting with Mesopotamia's depiction of their god as a mermaid-like creature. In later times, pirates and fishermen believed that mermaids, which they called sirens, would sing seductive songs to lure them to their death. And still to this day, cultures have differing views about what these creatures truly are. The Chinese believe that mermaids are nymph-like creatures whose tails smell of happiness or sadness. Slavic stories tell of mermaid demons that live in the waterways. These different perceptions of what mermaids are come from folklore, mythology, and documented sightings of the creatures.
Today we sat down with Pliny the Elder, who really led the start of the mermaid movement. He was one of the first credible, recorded mermaid encounters that encouraged others what to look out for on the open seas. So tell us a little about what you saw that day.
Well, I can't say much because it was very quick sighting, but I can tell you whatever it was definitely rough and scaled all over.
So tell us, Christopher Columbus, what you recorded about on January 4th, 1493 off the coast of Haiti.
Well, as described in my journal, I had assumed it was a mermaid, but it came high out of the water, and it was not as pretty as they were depicted, for somehow the face looked more like a man's.
Now, you've had crew members see a mermaid that you've documented. Is this correct?
Why, yes, it is. Thomas Hiles and Robert Rayner were the first ones to see it, and then they came shouting to us to come see it.
And what happened after that?
Well, we all saw it. It looked like it possessed the tail of a porpoise, and the speckled mackerel, long black hair, white skin, and seemed to look earnestly at men.
And can you tell us the exact date of this appearance?
Why, yes, I believe June 15th, 1608 to be exact.
Thank you, Torsten-Schmidt. It's a pleasure to have a marine biologist with some educated background knowledge to give their input on such a widely disputed topic. So first, why don't you tell us a little background knowledge on the testing that you were conducting?
Why, yes, of course. My team and I were hired by the Icelandic Geosurvey to conduct a search for promising land for oil and natural gas preserves through seismic mapping and sampling the ocean floor.
Wow, that's some pretty important research. So when did this turn into a mermaid hunt?
It happened when we were nearly 3,000 feet below the ocean surface. My team and I reported seeing an incredible phenomenon along with hearing some really remarkable things. After hearing these blimps in the sound recordings and thinking it was mermaids, we went to the Icelandic government to request a further investigation. But we were declined. This all happened in March 2013.
Thank you.
The most common theory on the existence of mermaids is the aquatic ape theory. The aquatic ape theory argues that at some point in time, as some of the apes headed inland and eventually evolved into humans, others headed the opposite direction towards the sea, where they had to evolve to their surroundings or die.
Some scientists believe our ancestors left the forest for the sea. But what pulled them here? What drew them to the water's edge?
There are 5 main points to the aquatic ape theory: relative hairlessness, bipedalism, body fat, large brains, and respiratory system. The first one, relative hairlessness, argues that apes that headed towards the water lost their fur coats when they started to spend more time in the water and their hair started to get in the way. The second point, bipedalism, which is the ability to stand up straight, scientists believe became part of evolution when apes had to learn to keep their head above the water while they're looking for foods in the shallows. The third main point is body fat. Now, humans have more fat than any other primate and gain fat at an exceptionally fast rate compared to other mammals. The theory is that humans are descended from an aquatic mammal. Much of our fat is subcutaneous or under the skin, and that is more of an indication of an aquatic mammal than anything else. Next is our large brains. Some part of the aquatic ape theory have insinuated that our impressive brain-to-body ratio is due to an aquatic past. They say that the fats and other substances found in seafood contributed to the evolution of a better brain, and only when ancestors began to spend more time in the sea did the big brain become possible. Last is the respiratory system. This theory advocates that our ability to control breathing is unusual for a land mammal and more indicative of those that have evolved in an aquatic environment. Furthermore, the position of our larynx seems more like an aquatic mammal's and is unlike other land mammals.
So the question of whether mermaids or mermen are actual beings or life type creatures like dolphins or manatees or even human beings has been something that has been researched over the years in the marine biology community. So historically, mermaids have been seen and documented in history. But even as researchers, there is evidence that mer creatures, we could call them, exist. And we might think of mermaids as something like Ariel from, I forget what that Disney cartoon is, but you know, it's something cute and like a young girl. But there is the possibility that mermaids exist somewhere in between. So they could be dolphin-like creatures or manatees that have human-like qualities that live in the ocean in areas that we've just not explored. So the fact of whether mermaids exist or not has not been refuted. And we do in the marine biology community believe that mermaids or mer creatures could exist and can continue to look for them in our scientific endeavors.
If mermaids did evolve the way that the ATT suggests, they would be very similar to humans in their evolution. They would be intelligent. For example, they would be more aware of their own thoughts and actions, unlike other animals. They would live in social groups. Just like humans are social animals, these creatures would depend on interaction with others and have their own elaborate way of communication. They would be elusive, which would explain why they are not so easily spotted. Their high intelligence would enable them to be nearly impossible to find, and since almost all of the ocean is still unexplored, they would not be very limited to where they were able to live. They would be predators. They would have the ability to hunt and outsmart their prey. And finally, they would be dangerous. With high intelligence levels comes the ability to be deceitful and calculated.
Go.
I do not believe in mermaids. I think if the human being has lungs, they need to be able to breathe air, not water. People will drown if they breathe water. So that's why I don't believe in mermaids. I think they would have to live out of the water.
Hi, this is Mrs. Allen. I do believe that there are mermaids. I do believe in happiness and that they are in the water and around us doing all kinds of things that we would never, ever, ever see. There are just so many stories. Some of them I know are perceived as fairy tales, but I can't imagine that there would be that many stories about mermaids without them being somewhat true, or the possibility of them being true. I just haven't met one yet. Hopefully it'll be
This is
soon.
Hunter Freeze, and I do not believe in mermaids. Mermaids are depicted fictional characters. Ariel people, really? That's Little Mermaid, a fictional Disney character.
I believe in mermaids, and this is why. Because people see them all over the world all the time, and they found a mermaid skeleton. And there's no way to prove that they don't exist, so why not have a little bit of imagination?
I believe in mermaids, but I'm scared of them.